Welcome, folks. It's a little bit of an off day and a little bit of an off time. Me doing the show Friday afternoon, but this was when this gentleman was available, and he's been a friend of the channel. He's an absolutely awesome dude. It's my good friend Phil Shouse, who is currently a member of and touring with the band Accept. He's actually calling me from California. He's got a show tonight, so I don't want to keep him. So, without wasting any more time, let me bring him in here. Phil, how are you, buddy?
Walter, very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see you too. So we were talking a little bit off air, and man, like you've been on a crazy ass roll these last few years, dude.
It's been a good few years for me, definitely.
Dude, man, you should be playing like what are they Powerball they call it down in the US?
Everybody says much about the lottery tickets for sure.
Shit, man. Like you went from you were with Gene, then that switched over to Ace, and I think your two partners in crime are still doing the Ace thing, right? Jeremy and
Correct.
Ryan? Yeah.
Correct. They're
And
out there and they're in Vegas tonight. I'm in Vegas in 2 nights.
oh shit, so you guys are just gonna miss each other then, eh?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's too bad. And now you're with Accept. So like how did this thing happen with Accept? How did you go from like fill us in because I'm curious about it.
The Accept thing happened. I was doing some fill-in shows with Wolf Hoffman's classical thing. It was like a side thing
Oh,
aside from Accept he was doing the
some final.
Headbanger Symphony.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so my first show was at Wacken
Wow.
in 2017 with that. They had a big headlining slot at Wacken that year, big 2 hour thing, and that was the debut of the symphony shows.
Right.
But so I played on a 30-minute part when it was classical music only.
Okay.
We did like Vivaldi, we did Beethoven, Mozart. We did like about 5 or 6 pieces in a half hour with the big orchestra, but it was an orchestra with those pieces arranged for 4-piece metal band also. And Wolf put the lead guitar in like as a lead violin instrument, right? So he
Right.
made the electric guitar like a lead classical. And then after our set, Accept played an hour of Accept songs with the symphony. And then in 2019, I did a tour like that. I was still a substitute though. I wasn't in the band yet, but it was a 2 hour show, all with symphony, half classical, half Accept songs. And at the end of that tour, Wolf asked me if I wanted to join the band, like just for real without the symphony. So
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you know what? Everything I've seen from Wolf, and I've been watching a lot of interviews and stuff about the tour you guys are on, whatever. Seems like a really
I
good
am
dude.
losing.
Pardon me? Can you hear me? We got some bad. Got a
You
bad.
are breaking up, Walter. I am losing you
Breaking
a little
up.
bit.
Okay.
Don't know if it might be mine.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it might be maybe I don't know. It's hard to
Okay,
tell.
you're good now. So
I'm
I
good
got
now.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just saying I've been watching a lot of interviews with Wolf, with the tour and everything else, and he seems like a really good dude, like a real down earth good dude. How was he as a band leader to work with?
He's great. He's great. The main thing I like about him, besides like just we get along great, but you get along with a lot of people that you may not work well with. My favorite thing is that it's so well organized. It's like it's very German run,
Yes.
and I love it, and it's very efficient and it's organized, and you know exactly where you're going, like months before you do it. It's like everything's laid out. Um, it's really it's just a well-run organization. We get along. He and I get along extremely well. We play together well on stage. We fit. I'm a good fit with the group, and um, it really these are the best tours I've done. Like the European one this summer was just a dream, and this is going great. It's just a lot of fun getting to play these songs. Every
Yeah,
night with a guy that helped define the genre.
pretty
So
much.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean those must have been the biggest crowds you've ever played to. I mean, Wacken, come on. That
Yeah, vodka, all and then all the the ones this summer. The European festivals are like
yeah.
nothing else. they're so much fun.
Yeah, that must have been a thrill, man, just playing in front of all those people.
Yeah.
I'm living vicariously through you, Philip. I'm just a little bar band guy.
It's all good, man. So was I, so am I. You know what I mean? It's like you're always there. It never leaves.
Yeah, yeah. So, you guys, so the new album, "To Mean to Die," how involved were you with that record? Was that already kind of put together, and then you kind of came along, or were you part of that process?
I wasn't part of the writing process, but that was on me. I didn't have anything that I liked enough to show him, and so it was. Everybody's always open for to bring ideas forward. I didn't have anything. I'm not really a. I don't know. I don't sit around and write. I just don't. I got some solos on there. I played guitar on it.
Okay.
So yeah, I am on that. That was done in 2020. And luckily, we were all able to get together in Nashville, um, kind of when things had kind of, evened out. Mark Tornillo, our singer, came down from Jersey right before the shit got kind of locked down, and
Mhm.
then also again after it got locked down. And then Andy Sneeb, our producer, was in England where he lives, and he was producing pretty much on what we're on right now. It was
Right.
a little more technical than that. He had the audio piped in so he could hear us tracking um, live, and he could produce like this. So it was great. It worked. It worked. We made it work.
Well, with you guys, I mean, the thing is, I mean, thinking like now that you're on your own tour, right? You're probably able to
Mhm.
throw in a lot more of the deeper cuts, right? The more, so you're probably playing some of the new record, I would imagine. Of course, you got to play the classics, but I mean,
Mhm.
how does that? How do you guys figure that out? Like what to include and what not to include?
You start with what you absolutely have to include,
Right.
and there's a good chunk of those songs,
Oh yeah.
and then you go, you want to do some of the new record. And what we've been doing on this tour and the European tour, I'm pointing over there, like the European tour is over there to my left, back that way.
Yeah.
We switched out songs every night, um, maybe just one, but every night's a little bit different. So one crowd might get "Living for Tonight," one crowd might get "Objection Overruled." We've been pulling in some deeper cuts like that, which I really like, the changing it up. Um, so we'll get the set. And we know we learned like a big list of tunes that we can pick from,
Right.
and so we just kind of interchange a couple out, which is fun, which is nice.
So along with that, so you basically have like we can do like 50 songs at the drop of a hat.
I
Rough
wouldn't go. I wouldn't go like 50, but
40? I don't know.
I wouldn't go. I think we learned around 25 or 30, I think.
Okay.
And then so, because we're doing 2-hour shows, we're doing
Right.
full 120 minutes every night. And that way, the majority of the set does stay the same, but there'll be, a couple or three differences every night.
Now, when you guys are sitting around, like, do you guys? I mean, you obviously go and you learn your individual parts. Well, that's another thing too. I'm gonna get all nerdy on you with arrangements and stuff because now you got three
Oh,
players, right?
please do. I'll get nerdy back at you.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm all about rehearsing and how this all kind of pans out with the show. So
Yeah.
you guys get together in a room, and you learn your parts, and then it's like, okay, let's go through the songs with the full band, or like how does that work? And how do you break up who's gonna play what?
Um, so we'll get like a list of songs from Wolf that we'll learn or refresh, and then normally, so the three guitar players are Wolf, myself, and Uwe Lulis. Uwe still lives in Germany,
Hmm.
so Wolf and I will get together first. I just did his
Right.
play because he lives around Nashville. I live around Nashville too,
Oh,
so we'll
okay.
get together first to start hashing some things out, um, and then we'll get probably Christopher and Martin Motnick to come over, drummer and bass player, to come over, and then we'll fly. When we're doing a tour, then we'll fly Uva and Mark over for full band rehearsals. But Wolf and I start before anybody else gets together. And then the arrangements, the 3 guitar, because that was the thing when they got me in the band, they just added me in the mix. So we're
Yeah.
we're the 6-pack now with 3 guitar players.
Hmm.
And that was pretty much going back to the studio records. So we could cover a lot of those because, all those, there's not one studio record that has just 2 guitar tracks on it. There's 3, 4, 5 layers of stuff. So we went back to those to see if there were any parts that were missing, just because there wasn't a person to play those. So then I picked up those parts on any of those songs, like a little clean just part for texture. I would take that. Those guys play what they normally play. I'll add that in the mix.
Right.
And then there came some parts where now Wolf and I can do the harmony when there wasn't one before,
Mm.
and then Uva's holding down the rhythm behind it. So there's the chords, there's the bass, and the harmony on top of it. So that way we can replicate the studio versions as well. And then on everything else, one song, "Princess of the Dawn," one of the classics from
Yeah.
the Restless and Wild
This is
album,
wild. Yeah.
they had never been able to play that like the record, because there's mandolin tracks. There's this one track that plays that one riff the whole time, the main riff, no matter what the other things you're doing. It's like there's so many parts. Now we can pretty much do it like the record, because I'm doing the mandolin, the clean parts. Um, it's just it was a lot of fun digging into that stuff, because my favorite thing to do on guitar is arrangements.
Mm.
And I had experience with Gene with 3 guitars, and so I kind of took some of the things we picked up there. Um, that, and in this, we're not always playing a different part. We are when it adds, to the music, and that might just mean I'm playing a different chord inversion.
Version. I was just gonna say.
Like, I love inversions.
Yeah.
They're so interesting to find new places to play. Oh, here's an A up here. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That when I play this up here, this note sticks out. So why don't I play this A versus your A, and that'll sound like,
Yeah.
just big,
A
because
monster A chord. Yeah.
yeah, you can use,
Yeah.
with 3 guitars, you can either, when you want to make something louder, you play the same thing, which we do sometimes.
Mhm.
Like in Fast as a Shark, we all come out of the gate with that.
Yeah.
We all play that together,
Yeah.
and that's killer. And
Mm.
then if you want to make something bigger, that's when you start stacking intervals and parts. That's when you start, like, I'll play an octave above you, just a power chord, like what Kiss used to do.
Right.
I learned a lot about guitar arranging from Kiss. Just real simple things that have a really, really big impact. Um, even in front of an audience can, even if they don't know what's going on, they can tell,
I can hear it.
wow,
Yeah.
something sounds really big and good right now. And can't put my finger on it, but, we worked really hard on all that stuff. We really microscoped everything. I'm really proud with how it came out, because it really does make a big difference. And it sounds like it's a big, massive sound, because we just didn't just go, okay, you guys play the 2 parts here and I'll solo, or
Yeah.
whatever. And it isn't all like that at all. It's a fun, challenging, interesting show to play for a guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you're not playing the main part of the song. You're playing accompanying parts with, which kind of, it's not, a little maybe harder to remember or to lock into, right? Because it's not the main, the
Yeah,
lead.
yeah. You gotta really dial in your part, because sometimes I may have come up with my own part that isn't even on the record, just
Mhm.
something that would sound good. Uh, Wolf came up with some harmony parts that weren't even on the record, so me and him could do more twin lead stuff.
Nice.
There's a part in Shadow Soldiers. There's a little guitar interlude before his main solo, that he wrote a harmony part for me.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
and so we love that stuff. The twin stuff just kills. The twin guitar stuff, it kills me. And, what people, the first thing they say is, "Why do you need 3 guitar players?" It's like somebody set a limit at 2, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to my days in, like, concert band playing a horn, and also going back to the symphony shows that we played. Like, you don't go see a symphony and go, Well, there's six violins. Well, there's six. They're not all playing the same thing,
Yeah, yeah,
and and so neither are we. It's like who put the limit at two guitar players,
yeah,
and who's to say like and some moron on the line sees it and goes, well, three's too many. Yeah, who the fuck said so? It's like
yeah.
if we're using them like an orchestra. It's like if you look at
Yes,
a guitar is a stringed instrument,
right.
just like a violin, just like a cello, just like a viola. It's just it's a string. It's an instrument with strings on it,
Mm.
and there's 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 multiple stringed instruments in a symphony. So why can't in a metal or rock band there be more than two guitars? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you just
It's a stupid like idea and a stupid thing to think like that you don't even want to give three a chance. It's like,
when
wow,
you're
what are they doing with more? What are they going to do with that? That's
yeah.
that's what people should say.
Well, when you I mean, but yeah, I mean, the non-musician probably wouldn't get it, but I mean, a musician would get it. Hey, different inversions, harmony parts, like all that stuff, and all that
Yeah,
does, like you said, is it just it takes a part that might have been just very straightforward and whatever, and just expands on it and makes it bigger and more symphonic,
yeah.
if you will, right?
Exactly, yeah, but non-musicians don't go to the symphony and complain about the number of violins. That, and it's the
Yeah,
same thing. It's
it's
the
the same
exact
thing.
same thing. It makes
Yeah,
no sense whatsoever. So I mean, we it sounds so good, and once we've done a few shows, we've been getting so much good feedback about that, about the three guitar attack, and we're like, wow, you
yeah,
guys really did something with it, because you can. The sky's the limit when you have the guitars and with the playability that the three of us have, we can do so many cool and different and good sounding things.
yeah, yeah. So how long? I mean, again, I'm just curious. Like when you all get together in a room, like how much rehearsal time do you take before you go out and embark on, let's say, this North American tour or the European? Like, what are we looking at? Like a week? Do you get a
We
week?
were for this North American tour, we were already pretty hot from Europe, so we didn't
Right.
really. I went over to Wolf's a little bit just to tighten up some things. I think we did like a week of rehearsal, like between Wolf Studio and at a rehearsal place. Before Europe, though, we did. I was going over to Wolf's maybe even a month or 6 weeks before we left,
Okay.
because that was the first time that we ever had a chance to really arrange the guitars,
Mm.
because we hadn't done the gigs we did in 2021 and 22 in America. We couldn't get Uwe over because he was in Germany and we
Yeah.
couldn't fly over. And so those were just 5-piece gigs. So the European tour was the first time we actually had a chance to look at the songs. And so Wolf and I began really early, and then Uwe came over pretty early too. And we worked really hard before the band came together.
I can imagine, like, for Wolf, this would be like really cool,
He
because
loves it.
he's been playing these songs for so long, and now they like literally new life has been breathed into them, right?
he
With
he can well, during the show he can hear these parts on records that have never been there before
yeah,
live,
yeah,
and yeah, he loves it. We're always really well rehearsed before we go out and do any show, which I am a big fan of. We're already tight before we leave, um, so it's a good, well run, tight German
machine.
oiled metal machine.
Metal Machine, yeah. Well, I mean, I've been watching like clips of you guys, and I mean yeah, the light show and the presentation and the power. It's a hell of a rock show, man. That's for
It's
sure.
it's really good. It's intense from the start. We don't like to let up.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. So, um, you're in the middle of a tour. Like, run us through like a typical, like a day of Phil's day, a typical Phil day on tour. You
Yeah,
know, as far because the other thing I was because I'm again so I'm all nerdy on you, right? Like, how does it getting the gear from one place to another? Like, are those guys packed breaking down right after the previous, like, how does that all kind of work, sound check, all that kind of stuff?
yeah,
Logistic.
we don't sound check, which is the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, wow.
The crew sound checks for us.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, we got a, we got the gear and the crew, every night, breaks down, we got a bus trailer. Um, in California today, we got to the hotel. I got in my room, did a workout, and I was lucky enough to they have an outdoor pool and pool weather
Mm,
in California. So I hit the pool for a little bit, and
nice.
talking to you right here from the pool. We normally go over. We go over for the meet and greet. A little before the meet and greet, we'll grab some dinner. We'll have the meet and greet, which those have been great at every show. So those have been a lot of fun. And then those, but depending on, of course, how many folks you have in it, depends on how long it lasts. Then after the meet and greet, I get my Traveler warm up guitar and mess around on that a little bit and do some stretches because it's a very it's a lot of movement in this show. So I
Oh
stretch my
yeah,
fingers and stretch my quads out and my legs and all that,
yeah.
and then showtime. So and then show's done. Get off, get changed, shower, and get on the bus and roll to the next place.
Next town. Wow, wow. So the crew, what gear wise, like, I mean, I'm sure you're not using the same stuff with Wolf. Well, I know, right, just looking at your guitars, they're not the same guitars that you were doing with Ace. Like, how wha- did Accept say, look, this is the stuff that we recommend, or did you kind of create your own rig or the guitars? Like, how did that all transpire?
When I got in the band, Wolf said, you can play any guitar you want, and I go, if you think I'm not playing a flying V, you're crazy. Like that's the main thing about it. That's the first vision I ever had of Accept was a balls to the wall video and those two flying V's
Go
back
back
and
and
forth
forth.
in sync.
Yeah,
It's like I'm playing a flying V,
yeah.
and I had a couple of Gibsons, and I asked him. I said, would it be okay if I like just play some of yours? Because he has his own famous, the Wolf Hoffman Flying V signature
Okay.
V. And I said, why don't I just play yours? And he goes, yeah. He goes, if you want us, that's totally fine. I go, I don't have to bring anything that way. It's the easiest thing. And so I play his um, some guitars. I've got two um, white and silver that I alternate back and forth. And I've got two here. I've got two in the European rig. We have two sets of gear, one that lives in the United States, one that lives in Europe.
Okay.
And then we're Kemper. And so I pretty much like Wolf and I use a lot of the same patches. And it's interesting that they do sound different in different guys' hands. And even though the guitars are the same,
Right.
everything's the same. It's different in my hands. So, but we're using the same patches, and it's very consistent. We're direct into in ears, and um, everything sounds great. Consistently. So it's a really easy, like um, actually, pretty solid, like very what am I trying to think of the word, reliable setup.
Yeah, yeah. So, is there any stage volume? There's no, everything's in ears. Like, I mean,
Drums and side fills. Mark, our singer, doesn't use in ears, so
ah,
he's got a wedge in front of him, and he's got side fills and then drums.
okay.
So that's all. That's the stage volume right there. So we have no amps or cabinets on stage,
Wow. So that must,
which sounds strange
yeah,
for people that have never done it. And when you first start doing that, yes, there is a learning curve. But once you get used to it, it kind of kicks a lot of ass because because your sound is exactly the same every night. Your mix is pretty much the exact same depending on if you're going outside to inside. You're going to
right,
have some differences, but your mix is consistent. And if you're over there on that side of the stage and your home base is over here, guess what? You can hear yourself fine. Nothing changes.
right,
You can
right.
walk wherever you want to. Nothing ever changes. I keep my mix at a really low, comfortable volume, so I don't have any ear fatigue. Um, my hearing loss somehow is very minimal. I still have really, really, really good hearing.
Oh, that's good.
Um, but no, I know that whole thing throws guitar players off, and it was odd to
Yeah,
get used to.
it,
But man, once you get used to it, you like it a lot. I do anyway. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that that would kind of mess with your head for the first probably, couple of nights where like, wait a minute, I'm
It's
moving and everything's still moving with me. Like it just
and you're not hearing anything off the stage, and
and you're not
it's a
yeah,
pretty
that would yeah,
still.
that would be
It's
a
a
little
still stage, but you do like it. Now, what it does do, um, it makes you play so clean because your sound is coming. There's nothing separating your guitar, the sound that you're making, with your ears. It's right on it. So there's no air in between. There's no
right,
cushion of error that's happening. You can
right, right.
hear every movement, every your hand makes.
Oh boy.
So, and we're playing such high gain, like high gain tones, right?
Right.
I've gotten so much cleaner than that because if it was with three guys, it could be a mud pit, but
Right,
you've got
right.
to be really, really, really clean and very on your volume and very still. So yeah, my extraneous noises have gotten a lot less doing that way.
I mean, you really gone from one extreme to another because playing with Ace with those because I mean, he's got 3 half stacks. One, like, they're when I saw him anyway, he had the 1 and then he had 2 on each side, like, they were basically directly behind him.
And they're tilted back at his head.
Yeah.
So he's got three 412s in an arc behind him,
Right.
all
Yes.
tilted back at his head. And
Yeah.
he's got three wedges in front.
Yeah.
Vocals in the middle one, guitar out of the side ones, plus side fills.
Yeah.
I didn't go near that stage without my plugs in. I mean, it's it would knock you down. He plays so loud.
Oh, man.
And so yeah, I never ever got close, and only thing I ever had in my wedge for the Ace gig was my own vocal
Right.
because I could hear everything else great. I maybe had a little bass in my vocal, and I just kind of back up to my amp and my bass amp, and so I could feel what I was playing. But yeah, it's pretty much polar opposites
Yeah,
here.
man, it's 'cause yeah. Yeah, that's why I was asking about the adjustment part of it because I honestly I can't imagine doing the in-ear thing. I mean, I tried wearing, earplugs. I can't even do that. I got these, like, the molded to your ears, with the filters in them,
That's what I
right?
have. Yeah, the molded plugs.
Right, the
Yeah,
molded ones with the filters in them, and I had them, and I went to a rehearsal, and I think after about 10 minutes, I said, "I can't do this," because I have to hear the power, the push, whatever, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean,
Jeremy used to do that, and he had hearing damage, so he's not doing it anymore. I got these molded plugs before the Gene and Ace tour of Australia because we that was in 2018. Ace set, then Gene set, and we backed up both of them. And I then realized that I was going to have my ears pounded for 2.5 hours a night,
yeah,
and so I invested in those plugs. And I first show, it's like, oh my god, I'm so glad. And Jeremy had, it's like, no way, man, not me. First show, he's like, I think my hearing is damaged from side fills because Ace is so loud. So
oh,
yeah, man, I don't. I went for years without him, and somehow escaped with pretty minimal damage. I don't have much tinnitus, so I've got him. And with this, you really got it under control. I had my VIX very low, and you can, you're in control of all that with when you're in ears. Um, a monitor guy is not going to go up and just crank something. Um, nobody's going to unplug anything that's going to make a big pop and
yeah,
squeal, and so it's a lot. Those kind of problems kind of go away when you have a setup like we do and accept.
yeah. So, I'm just for those that are tuning in that aren't aware, we're talking about Ace Frehley and Gene Simmons. I guess Phil was in their solo bands back in well, when you started with Gene first. When was that? Like 2016 thereabouts?
17 was the first Gene
2017.
shows. Yep.
Yeah, and then you started with Ace. You mentioned 28. That was, I think, in
Mhm.
Australia is when you guys did the switch over, right? Where,
Yep.
yeah, okay,
Yep.
yeah, touring with them. So is it? So now you're. I mean, that's all in the background now, right? You're Accept, and looks like Accept is going to be going. I can't see Wolf packing up anytime soon. He's that guy's in great shape, man, and he's got
I
all.
can't. I can't either. He's in great shape. His work ethic is amazing, and yeah, I don't see a I can't like see a timeline on this one. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
we're all getting older and everything, and it can't go forever. But I can't go like oh yeah, but this is going to be it. No, there's going to be another record. Um, so we'll be doing the record and then the album cycle of touring again. So at least that one more. You know,
yeah.
nobody's talked about it.
Well, I mean, in interviews that I saw with him, he's one of the few that are still doing that. Nobody does that anymore. You
Right.
know what I
It's
mean?
a pretty regular schedule of every few years an album out,
Yeah.
and they do well. They sound good. It sounds like Accept, and they
Hmm.
sell, and they've stayed relevant after all these years, and are still doing it, still touring, and still like a headline festival act.
Yeah.
It's amazing the career that he's had. Just the other day was the 40th anniversary of the Restless and Wild album release.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we
Yeah.
all sent that to him, and he was like, "Oh God, I'm old."
But yeah, man, he's doing what he loves, and he keeps. But yeah, like most bands of that, I mean, that have been around as long as Accept, they're just going out and they're just, here's our hits, and there you
Right.
go, and they're not putting out any new product. So yeah, he's one of the few that is still on that consistent, the model that was back in the day. And
Yeah.
honestly, there's not a lot of bands that, like, one thing about Accept is the Accept of 2020 is the 80s Accept. I mean, they're the classic heavy metal band. If you love that music, when you were in your
Mhm.
teens, I mean, because here's something totally unrelated but kind of related. So I do a monthly album ranking show, and with a couple other gentlemen, Martin Popoff and Pete Pardo.
For
Anyway,
sure.
but anyways, so we and this month, and this was before our conversation and emailing you, whatever. This is like months ago. We
Hmm.
decided this month we were going to rank the top 5 albums of Accept. So I've
Oh,
been
very cool.
Dude, I've been listening to Accept for like the last month, right? Like, I mean, the '80s records I knew really well, and Blood of Nations, I absolutely love that record.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Oh
That's
my,
so good.
that brought them. I mean, they just came back. Oh my god, what a great album. Anyways, and I'm kind of giving away my list a little bit, but yeah, and that so it all kinds of like, it's like the Accept month on my channel, like completely unplanned, but that's kind of the way it went. But yeah, there's not a lot of bands that are doing that classic '80s album tour, especially. I mean, the only other band I can think of is, well, Judas Priest is supposed to put out another record at some point,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty rare. So, sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, and the Priest is one of those that do that too. Firepower, they're due for a new one. And I know so a lot of it's finished. So
It's what I
so yeah,
hear, and I
yep.
hear
So
Glenn
yeah.
is still playing on that one too, which is,
Oh, great,
you
good.
gotta have Glenn on those records.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause I love
as
Richie
long
Faulkner, but you gotta have Glenn on there.
as you can have Tipton. Yeah, he has to be
Yeah,
in the mix totally. As
he's
long as
got
he can still play. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, he's contributing songwriting wise, and you need that flavor in there. It just doesn't sound like proper Priest anymore. But
yeah.
yeah, so you guys are doing, like you were saying, you do 3 nights on, 1 night off, 4 nights on, 1 night off. How do you find the pace of it? Is it comfortable, or, I mean,
Oh
three?
yeah, yeah. It's a great pace. Some of the guys some of the guys out want to play every night. I think they're insane. I love days off. I'm all for days off. But no, great. We do three. I think we're doing one 4 in a row. I think just one.
Mm.
If we're doing any, it's just one, and then some threes in a rows, twos in a rows. All the combinations above.
So I've got the link to the Accept website in the description if you want to see when Accept is coming to your town. Because right now you're in California right now,
Yep.
and are you going to? Did you go to Texas, or are you going to Texas?
We already went through Texas.
Okay,
So we went. We started in Nashville, then Texas, and now here, and then we go back. We go back east and north from here.
okay, all right. So
Just,
yeah,
just by that way.
this way. Yeah. So if you're curious about going to see Accept, then I would highly suggest it. And just pull up, look at any YouTube. You guys have a lot of stuff online right now, YouTube clips from
Yeah,
shows, and just yeah, it's like the best '80s rock show. I mean, the production looks fantastic. The lights and the guitar army. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely killer. So I would highly.
the choreography is still in tow. We're
Yeah,
still doing that
yeah,
stuff.
I
So
noticed that. Yeah, yeah, you
yeah, we
guys.
got tickets, and VIP packages are on the website too for all dates.
All right, so go and check that stuff out. I don't want to keep you. I know you got a show tonight, so I want to thank you, Phil, for doing the show. This is great. I want to thank some people. We got a bunch of people watching here. Got
Oh,
Gussie in
awesome!
here, Guitar Shocker. Welcome, Music Therapy Laz. Quentin is in here. Welcome everybody, and thank you so much for checking out the show. Spencer Cron, Gene Schmidt. Remember Gene Schmidt
Hey,
from?
Gene. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
Gene's in
Gene.
here. Jeff
Awesome.
Replinger, cool. Coey Halface. All right, a lot of folks in here. So thanks everybody. Dan in New
Great.
Jersey. Thanks everybody for watching. So yeah, I want to thank Phil. Phil, just hang on for a second.
Sure, you
Um,
got it.
yeah, so coming up on the Hack Show, actually, this coming Wednesday is episode 2 of the Cover Band Show. All things cover band. I think the topic this week we're going to be talking, actually, what I was asking you about earlier. So we're going to be discussing set lists. So check that out. And at the end of the month, look out for a review show with Martin and Pete, and we are going to be talking about our top 5 Accept records. So thanks everybody for watching. Have a good weekend. For us in Canada, this is Thanksgiving weekend. So for my Canadian
All right.
peeps, happy Thanksgiving. All right, cheers everybody.